We're going to talk about Jamal and what he has cooking inside of some campaign conversations, including this idea of a Bank of Chicago. On Tuesday, today, he proposed the financing vehicle he hopes will deliver on the promise of a public bank in Chicago. So let's talk a little bit about this. I know that a couple months ago, I talked about public banking on the show. And so we can, I didn't dive too deeply into it this go around as I did the last time. But I'll touch on a little bit of some things in regards to the Bank of North Dakota. But let's talk about where Green is coming from on this. So Jamal Green, who's running for mayor, sees a public bank as the only way to bridge the wealth gap and reverse decades of redlining that a study by WBEZ showed has banks lending 12 cents to Black neighborhoods, 13 cents in Hispanic neighborhoods for every $1 they lend in white neighborhoods. He says, quote, "We have more vacant properties in these communities than we have people. We need new homeowners. We need grocery stores. We need affordable housing. We need to rebuild communities similar to what they did in Pullman, where they brought jobs, they brought retail, they brought homeowners. They did everything that needs to happen." We've talked about this on the show, like I said, and the example we have of it in the States is the Bank of North Dakota. And just so that we're clear, that bank, the NDB, what is that? Bank BND. Oh my
Bank
God.
of North
Who's
Dakota.
really awesome with acronyms? This girl, right? The bank will be 103 years old. And according to Vox, the bank had net earnings of $159 million in 2018 and has a positive net income every year as far back as 1966. And that goes back into the coffers of the community and businesses. And according to 2018 Economic Development Report, the Bank of North Dakota made 491 commercial loans totaling $971 million and 402 agricultural loans totaling $182 million. So it's not small potatoes when we're talking about public banking. This is serious lending in partnership with other institutions that actually make communities work and facilitate things that communities actually need, because it's not based in how much money are we going to make for this. So half of the money, according to Green's plan, half of the money would come from the city's cash fund, without specifically mentioning either the long-term reserve fund generated by the sale of the Chicago Skyway or city assets invested by the city treasurer's office. The other half would come from federal stimulus funds. And that's what I brought that up earlier, is because, we keep hearing about all of these really cool things that are going on. Like, for example, Ed, that we're doing that, for lack of a better word, my words are like escaping me right now. Like the beta testing of the UBI, right? Where we're testing, what is it, like 500 families are getting a UBI in Chicago, or
we have, the city of Chicago did one version of basic income on a lottery system. Cook County, I think, just started another one, which I think can start applying for in early October.
Okay, yeah. And a lot of the funding is coming from those COVID relief funds. And one of my concerns has been like, well, this is a great idea, and I love that they're helping families, and what happens when that funding runs out. And I think that Green is pointing to something really interesting here, which is basically like we take that funding and we actually do an investment situation with the funding. Let's see what else he said. The second half would come from federal stimulus funds. If need, the Illinois General Assembly could be asked to provide matching funds. Mm-hmm. Over the years, there have been numerous proposals to create a public bank. It never happened. Green said he believes he knows why. Quote, "Private banks are powerful. They have lobbyists. Even in other states, They have spent a lot of money to stop this from happening. And if you read Tom Tresser's book, Chicago's Not Broke, you'll know that private banks make a boatload of money lending to the city at high interest rates.
Yeah,
So
and
that,
they can create as much funds available that they need to make available. They don't have to. I mean, they basically get this money either if they're not like a federal bank where they can basically mark up whatever they want to and call it a loan. They're borrowing at near zero interest from a federal bank and then relending that money out. So, yeah, public bank is definitely a thing that we need in this city.
yep, agreed. I've been a big fan of the idea of public banking for a really long time. I think it is something vital inside of the conversation to help, communities grow where, private sector isn't seeing an opportunity to make a bunch of money. Um, because like we still need to facilitate and make sure people are okay, and even if there isn't this opportunity right now to like scrape as much money out of their coffers as possible. Former alderman Amaya Paiwar campaigned for city treasurer in 2019 on a promise to create a public bank. And she said black and brown people were historically denied systematic bank lending through redlining and other racist policies. And that's why in their communities, you see an overlap of every single kind of desert: food, pharmacy, broadband, childcare, housing, and banking. It's time to stop trying to solve for a lack of systematic lending in black and brown communities with everything but systematic lending. Right? Like, it's like, and I think what I hear her saying is like, people can take care of themselves if they are given the resources to take care of themselves. Like, people know
Yeah,
what people need,
yeah.
and it's just like we're playing like fuck around and pretending like people can't make choices for themselves in their communities
Well,
once
yeah,
resources are made available.
you know what it is, Kira. It's just this never ending pick yourself up by your bootstraps mentality that's been ingrained in Americans be, by people who want you to uh, work for less and settle for
Mm-hmm.
less, and it's the same people who basically have stagnated, the wage. They decided that, this job is only worth this much, and this job is only worth this much, and if you're flipping burgers, you don't deserve to have a roof over your head. That's
Mm-hmm.
bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You work a job, you work 40 hours a week. You should be able to support yourself. Uh,
Yeah.
and if you can't work, the communities and social safety nets should be able to support you too.
Yep.
It's it's ridiculous the way we've had to deal with these people who have basically been so reductive on everybody else who has to earn a living, while a majority of them sit on their ass and earn gigantic profits off of your
I
labor,
know. I
right?
know. I know. And then they go around and pretend like they're the hard workers that have taken
Yeah,
all this risk. And it's like, what risk? Like, especially once you're making it, once you're in that upper uh, uh, tax bracket or whatever. It's like you're not taking risk. It sounds like a lot of money when you're investing in something, right? But it's not that much money for that person because their wealth is so great. So it's a lot of like smoke and mirrors, and it's a lot of just basically this capitalistic sort of conditioning that we have, that it's like if you're poor, you're lazy, and if you're wealthy, you must have worked really, really hard for it. And it's
which
ingrained.
I mean, yeah, and it's absolutely false.
It's
I
totally
mean,
false.
you get those people like who say that they were a self-made millionaire, and I mean there's an exception to the rule. Like
Well,
what's his name who owns the Dallas Mavericks?
mhm.
Uh, I forget his name right now. But sure, he did a lot of things, and he worked real hard, but who knows what kind of privilege he may or may not have had.
100%.
And again, he's an exception to the rule. It's not.
And there's nothing
standard.
wrong with interdependence, right? That's the other piece is like so for an example, so my nephew wanted to leave Iowa and he didn't see any opportunity for that there for him. He wants to be an entrepreneur and he wanted to come to Chicago to like, find his fortune, right? And so I was like, come on, like I have a spare room. First month is free. We'll figure out like how you're going to do this. Let's get you on your feet. Let's get you moving. And it's just like he doesn't, come from like anything, quote unquote, like his dad, my brother, doesn't have money to be like sparing or whatever. And it's not like we're like giving him the world and, or paying for his way or anything like that. But it's just these little things like this opportunity to like leap and go somewhere where you're taken care of, right? It's like that is, even if let's say he starts a company, let's say he becomes outrageously financially successful inside of that company. He didn't do it alone, period. He didn't, right? Even if he ended up doing the investments or taking the time to build the business and he did it full of integrity and he kicked ass and he created a product or a service that everybody wanted and needed, he still didn't do it alone, period. So, and I think that that's what a lot of people need to really get when it comes to looking at people like the haves and the have-nots, right? Is the fact that we're not in a vacuum. And most people, even if they tout themselves or are seen as self-made, it's usually not actually the case. So, about Timothy Knutson at Croak Fairchild and Morgan, emerging companies and founders. Yeah, we talked about in the venture capital space rely on Timmy's unique experience. There you go, Ed. Thank you, Kathy.
Where is it? I'm looking for Kathy Powers gave us a tip in the live chat there. And I am trying to find it here. Everybody brace yourselves.
Is that Macoun?
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Here, this is what you're looking for, right?
Lost my eyes, startling, help!
I'm the leprechaun. Garth, I'm the leprechaun.
Cool it, okay?
I'm the leprechaun.
Stop it, all right?
Don't try and steal me pot of gold.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Kathy, I think that you're talking about Timothy Knutson. I really want to slap his face already. Oh my God, it makes me laugh. Yeah, he's a venture capitalist.